At 2:47 a.m., a terrified social worker whispered 4 words that froze my entire body. She might not live. A 14-year-old girl, my goddaughter, was lying in a hospital bed covered in brutal injuries her own stepfather tried to explain away as accidents. By dawn, 30 wrestlers I hadn't called in years were racing toward that hospital. And what happened when we arrived shattered the entire city. Let me know in the comments, have you ever had such an incident happen to you? And also tell me which city and country you're watching from, so I can thank you personally. And don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell for more true stories like this. Tom Hawk Daniels had been asleep for barely 2 hours when the shrill vibration of his phone ripped through the silence. He squinted at the glowing screen, confused at first, then instantly alert when he saw the caller. ID, New Mexico Child Protective Services. No one called him at this hour, not unless something was terribly wrong. He cleared his throat, sat up, and answered. Daniels speaking. A shaky female voice responded. Mr. Daniels, this is Rebecca Cho from CPS. I'm calling about Lily Morrison. The name hit him like a punch to the chest. Lily, Jake Morrison's daughter, his goddaughter, his promise. What happened? Hawk demanded, already pushing back the covers, adrenaline shoving sleep out of his body. She was admitted 4 hours ago to Presbyterian Hospital, Rebecca said. She has 3 broken ribs, a fractured wrist, and extensive bruising on her back and torso. His jaw clenched. And her stepfather? Rebecca hesitated. He's a decorated officer in the Albuquerque Police Department. He claims she fell. Doctors say the injuries don't match his story. Hawk was already pulling on his jeans. Don't release her, I'm coming. Mr. Daniels, you're 600 miles away. I said I'm coming. He hung up before she could argue again. For a moment, he stood in the dark, staring at the framed photo on his wall. Jake Morrison in desert fatigues, smiling despite the dust and heat of Afghanistan, his best friend. His brother. The man whose last breath carried one plea. Promise me, Hawk, watch over Sarah and the baby. And Hawk had promised. He promised with blood on his hands and grief in his lungs. But life happened. Time passed. Jake's widow remarried, and Hawk convinced himself the girl was safe. He had broken that promise. His chest tightened. I'm sorry, Jake, he whispered to the empty room. I'm fixing it now. He grabbed his phone again, but this time he wasn't calling CPS. He was calling family, dialing Diesel Dave first, former heavyweight champion, now owner of a dusty Arizona wrestling gym. It rang 4 times before a groggy bear of a voice answered. Hawk, you good? No, I need the Brotherhood. All of them. A beat of silence. Then, where? Albuquerque, hospital. A little girl's been hurt by a man who should have protected her. Diesel's tone turned to steel. How many wrestlers you want? Everyone who can get out of bed. I'll have 30 in the lot by dawn. Next, he called Marcus, the attorney who used to referee their charity matches. Then Mav, the Old Iron, a 70-year-old legend who wrestled before cable TV existed. Then Rosa, the medic who stitched them all together after years of matches. Then Tommy, soft-spoken high school teacher, former state champion. Every call was the same. No hesitation, no excuses. Just, I'm in. Tell me where. By 4 a.m., his driveway vibrated with the arrival of Diesel's black SUV and 2 trucks loaded with gear. More headlights appeared up the road. Big bodies, bigger hearts. Not a gang, not thugs, not warriors hungry for a brawl. Just 30 wrestlers answering a call that had nothing to do with glory and everything to do with protecting a girl none of them had ever met. Diesel slapped a hand on Hawk's shoulder. What's the play? Hawk inhaled sharply. We drive 600 miles. We walk into that hospital peacefully, and we let that girl see she is not alone. And the stepfather? Diesel asked quietly. Hawk's eyes hardened. Let him see he is. Engines rumbled to life behind them. The convoy lined up, SUVs, trucks, muscle cars, breathing like beasts ready to run. Hawk climbed into the lead vehicle. Tonight, he would make good on a promise he never should have broken. Brothers, he said into the radio, voice steady, we roll. And 30 wrestlers surged into the night. The desert highway stretched out ahead like a dark ribbon, unrolling beneath the roaring engines of a 30-man convoy. What would have looked like an intimidation march to anyone else felt like a rescue mission to them. Diesel drove point, his massive hands gripping the wheel of a reinforced black SUV. Hawk rode shotgun, eyes locked on the road, mind racing with the phone call he could still hear echoing in his skull. 3 broken ribs, fractured wrist, bruises shaped like fingers. Jake's daughter, his goddaughter, his failure. But not anymore. Behind them, headlights shimmered in perfect formation. Rosa followed in her paramedic-outfitted van, the back packed with medical supplies. Mav drove a rattling old pickup with a bench seat and a rusted toolbox. Tommy, Snake, Big Joe, the Falcon, Bronx Bill, and a caravan of men and women who had spent their lives performing in rings, fighting for crowds, and taking impacts that would fold an average person in half. These weren't bikers, outlaws, or vigilantes. They were wrestlers. Athletes who knew the difference between showmanship and real violence. People who understood pain, how it felt to take it, how it felt to rise from it, and how much courage a child needed to endure it. And they weren't about to let Lily endure it alone. Diesel glanced over. You sure you're ready for what comes next? I wasn't ready when Jake died, Hawk murmured, but I'm damn sure ready now. Diesel nodded. Good. Because 30 angry wrestlers showing up at a hospital, that's gonna rattle some cages. We're not going there angry, Hawk said. We go calm, controlled, peaceful. And if her stepfather tries something? Hawk looked out the window at the night sky. Then he learns what happens when you harm a child and think nobody will come for her. By the time they crossed into New Mexico, dawn had begun to bleed across the horizon. The convoy pulled into a gas station just outside Deming, a dusty stop with flickering lights and 2 sleepy attendants who blinked in shock at the sight of 30 wrestlers stepping out of vehicles like giants unfolding from shadows. Rosa stretched her back, groaning. Anyone hungry? I've got protein bars, water, electrolytes. Big Joe laughed. Rosa, you got everything except a whole kitchen. I brought that too, she shot back, tapping the portable stove in the van. They gathered around Hawk, forming a loose semicircle. Men nearly 7 feet tall, women with powerlifter builds, tattooed arms, cauliflower ears, and hearts bigger than their shoulders. They all watched him, waiting for orders. Hawk spoke quietly, but his voice carried. Lily Morrison is 14. She's terrified. She's alone, and the man who hurt her is a police officer with influence. Murmurs rippled through the group. Hawk continued. We're not storming that hospital looking for a fight. We're showing a girl that someone gives a damn, that someone cares about what happened to her. Mav stepped forward, leaning on his cane, voice gravelly. And what happens if this officer tries to pull rank? If he tries to move her? Lock us out? Then we stand witness, Hawk said. Calm, respectful, unmovable. Tommy folded his arms. And if he lies? Tries to twist this on us? Cameras are rolling the moment we arrive, Rosa said, raising her phone. I have body cams for anyone who wants one. This is protection, not provocation. Bronx Bill cracked his knuckles. We better hope that stepdad don't try nothing stupid. Hawk met his eyes. If he does, we let the lawyers handle it. Marcus is already filing emergency custody papers. Our job is to support her, not start a war. Snake, silent until now, pointed at Hawk. She's your goddaughter, but she's our family now too. Hawk swallowed hard. Thank you. The group dissolved into movement, refueling vehicles, cracking open water bottles, stretching, sharing the weight of the moment Diesel approached quietly. You ever think Jake knew this day would come? Hawk stared at the ground. Jake believed in people. He believed the world was kinder than it is. And you? I believe the world is cruel until someone stands up and makes it better. Diesel nodded. Then let's go make it better. 3 hours later, Albuquerque's city skyline emerged from behind the mountains. Traffic thickened. Cell phones buzzed. Social media had already picked up their approach. Hashtag Iron Ring for Lily. Hashtag Protect the Children. Hashtag 30 Wrestlers for Justice. Someone had leaked the story. Good. Let the world watch. As they approached Presbyterian Hospital, the group fell into formation. SUVs and trucks lining up in 2 clean rows, engines rumbling like disciplined thunder. Hawk exhaled deeply. All right, brothers, this is it. They turned into the hospital parking lot, uniform and silent. Patients stared. Nurses stopped walking. Security froze mid-step. 30 wrestlers stepped out of their vehicles. Not violent, not yelling, not threatening. Just present, just ready, just unbreakable. And for the first time, Lily Morrison was about to see what family really meant. Presbyterian Hospital had seen its share of emergencies, car crashes, gunshot wounds, frantic parents rushing in with feverish infants. But nothing in its decades of service had prepared it for the sight unfolding in its parking lot that morning. 30 wrestlers, each built like living fortresses, stepped out of their vehicles in near-perfect sync. They didn't walk fast. They didn't stomp or shout or do anything to intimidate. Instead, they moved with quiet purpose, like guardians approaching a sacred place. Nurses paused mid-shift. A resident spilled his coffee. A cafeteria worker dropped an entire tray of food when Rosa rolled out her medical bag. A security guard jogged forward, mustache quivering nervously. Ladies and gentlemen, what exactly is going on here? Hawk stepped forward, hands visible at his sides, calm as stone. We're here to see a patient, Lily Morrison. The guard blinked. All of you? We won't all go inside, Hawk said evenly. Just a few. The rest will wait outside respectfully. The guard swallowed hard. Are you a gang? Rosa smirked. Do we look like a gang? Big Joe flexed, not to intimidate. Just to stretch, the man had a wingspan like a barn door. The guard's face drained of color. Hawk offered a reassuring half-smile. We're not here to cause trouble. We're here because a 14-year-old girl is scared, and we intend to make sure she knows she's safe. The guard hesitated, hand hovering awkwardly over his radio, but a second guard, older and more level-headed, stepped up behind him. They're fine, Carl, he said. They're not causing problems. Let 'em be. Carl nodded reluctantly. All right. But if her stepfather... We know exactly who he is, Hawk cut in. And we're not here to confront him. We're here for her. The guard studied their faces, searching for aggression and finding none. Only rigid determination. Okay, he said quietly. Stay peaceful, and we won't have an issue. We're always peaceful, Diesel added, until someone hurts a kid. Inside the hospital, the air smelled of disinfectant and fear. Hawk's boots echoed down the hallway as Rosa, Tommy, and Diesel followed him. The rest remained outside, standing in a loose, respectful perimeter. 30 silent sentinels who made every staff member wonder what kind of girl could inspire such an army to show up. Rebecca Cho, The CPS worker, who had called Hawk, rushed toward them. "Oh, thank God you made it," she breathed. "She's been asking for you." Hawk felt something sharp twist in his chest. "She remembers me?" "She didn't at first," Rebecca said gently, "but she kept saying, 'My dad had a friend named Hawk.' When I told her you were coming, she cried." They reached Lily's door. "Prepare yourself," Rebecca whispered. "She's been through hell." Hawk steadied his breath, then stepped inside. Lily lay in the hospital bed, small and fragile under a tangle of wires, monitors, and blankets. Her hair was messy, her face bruised, her arm in a cast. She looked like a child who had spent years tiptoeing through storms she never deserved. Her eyes fluttered open. At first she stared blankly, then her expression shifted. Confusion, recognition, hope. "Uncle Hawk?" she whispered. The name hit him harder than a knockout punch. Hawk moved closer, gently brushing hair from her forehead. "Yeah, sweetheart, it's me." Her voice cracked. "You came." "I should have come a long time ago," he said softly. "But I'm here now, and I'm not going anywhere." She swallowed, tears gathering. He's mad I talked. He said he'd take me home tonight." Diesel's jaw tightened. Tommy's fists silently balled. Hawk leaned in, voice calm but firm. "You're not going anywhere with that man, not tonight, not ever." Lily's breath trembled. Her eyes darted toward the door. "He's a cop. Nobody believes me." "I believe you," Hawk said. Rosa stepped closer. "We all do, sweetheart." Lily hesitated, then whispered something so faint Hawk almost missed it. He killed my mom." The room went silent. Tommy froze. Diesel looked like he'd been shot. Rosa's hand flew to her mouth. Hawk felt the world tilt. "What did you say?" he asked quietly. Lily's tears spilled over. "He killed my mom. It wasn't an accident. It wasn't—" Her voice broke into sobs. "He said she slipped. He said we weren't supposed to talk about it, but I remember I heard a crash and... Her whole body trembled. Hawk's hands tightened around hers. "It's okay. You're safe now." But deep inside, his blood ran ice cold, because this wasn't just abuse. This wasn't just a violent stepfather. This was murder, and the man who committed it was a decorated officer with a badge, a temper, and a city's worth of connections. Hawk leaned over and kissed Lily's forehead. "You're never facing him alone again." As if summoned by the words, a shadow appeared at the doorway. A tall man in a police uniform. Cold eyes, controlled rage, her stepfather, Officer Daniel Morrison, and behind Hawk, Diesel whispered, "Brace yourself. This is about to get ugly." Officer Daniel Morrison filled the doorway like a storm cloud. Dark, silent, suffocating. His uniform was flawless, his posture rigid, his jaw flexing with a rage he was barely containing. He scanned the room, landing on Lily first. The moment their eyes met, she recoiled so violently that the heart monitor spiked. That alone told Hawk everything he needed to know. Morrison's gaze slid to Hawk next, then to Diesel, Tommy, and Rosa. His voice came out low and calm, the kind of calm that sounded like it took effort. "What is this?" he asked. "Some kind of intimidation act?" "No," Hawk replied, equally calm. "This is protection." Morrison's lip curled. "From who?" Lily's breath stuttered. She sank deeper into the bed, trembling so hard the blankets shook. Hawk didn't need to answer. Morrison stepped farther inside. "Lily, sweetheart, you shouldn't be telling strangers lies. You know we talked about this." Diesel took one deliberate step forward. "That's close enough." Morrison turned sharply. "Excuse me?" "You heard the man?" Tommy added. "She doesn't want you near her right now." Morrison scoffed, tapping his badge like it was a weapon. "I'm her legal guardian. I can go wherever I damn well No, Hawk interrupted, stepping between them. Not tonight, and not without CPS approval. Rebecca Cho appeared behind Morrison, visibly shaking but mustering courage. Officer Morrison, please step outside. You need to follow procedure. He didn't even look at her. I don't take orders from a social worker. You will take them from the court, Hawk said. Morrison's eyes narrowed. You think you're going to win custody? You're a nobody. I'm the man her father trusted, Hawk answered, and that counts for more than your badge. For a moment, Morrison's mask cracked. Something primal and furious burned behind those eyes, a flicker of the man Lily was terrified of. Hawk stared back, unblinking. Finally, Morrison straightened his posture. Fine, she stays overnight, but I'll be back in the morning with my lawyer. You people have no idea what you're walking into. Diesel folded his arms, voice calm but cold. And you have no idea what you're walking into either. Morrison turned sharply on his heel and left the room, his boots clicking like gunshots on the linoleum. The moment he disappeared from sight, Lily exhaled a sob of relief that shook her whole body. Rosa rushed to her side, adjusting the blankets. Sweetheart, it's okay. He's gone. No, he's not, Lily whispered. He never leaves. Hawk sat on the edge of her bed and gently held her good hand. He's not getting you tonight, I promise. Outside the hospital room, the hallway buzzed with whispers. Visitors were whispering. Nurses were whispering. Security was whispering. Because the sight outside the hospital was unlike anything anyone had ever seen. 30 wrestlers forming a silent perimeter around the building, standing like statues. Some leaned against their trucks. Some sat quietly on the curb. Some simply stood with their arms crossed, watching every door, every exit, every shadow. Reporters had begun to arrive too, cameras flashing, live streams going viral. A local anchorwoman whispered into her mic. We've never seen anything like this. 30 professional and semi-pro wrestlers have gathered outside Presbyterian Hospital, allegedly to protect a 14-year-old girl from her stepfather, an active-duty police officer. Hashtags were blowing up. Comments skyrocketing, support pouring in from strangers across the country. Hawk stepped out of Lily's room and immediately felt dozens of eyes turned toward him. Nurses, patients, journalists wanting a quote. Diesel shut that down fast. No interviews, no statements, not yet. Rosa checked the hallway cameras. They're watching us now. Everything we do needs to be clean. It always was, Tommy replied. Inside Lily's room, night slowly wrapped around the hospital. Hawk refused to leave her side. He pulled up a chair and sat next to her bed, holding her hand loosely while she slept. Every time she twitched or whimpered, he squeezed her hand gently until her breathing evened out. Diesel took first watch in the hallway. Tommy took second. Rosa sat beside the door with her medical bag. Mav stayed outside with the rest, leaning on his cane like a sentinel from another era. Every 3 hours, the wrestlers rotated shifts, quiet, disciplined, respectful. They brought food for nurses, water for security, and blankets for anyone cold. They didn't yell, they didn't threaten, they didn't escalate. They simply existed like a wall built out of muscle, loyalty, and purpose. Sometime after midnight, a nurse approached Hawk softly. I've been here 20 years, she whispered, and I've never seen a group stand guard like this, that girl. She must mean a lot to you. Hawk looked at Lily's sleeping face. She means more than I can explain. The nurse nodded. Well, you're doing the right thing. As she walked away, Hawk looked at the monitor beeping steadily beside Lily. He remembered Jake. He remembered the promise. He remembered the guilt. But now he was making it right. He leaned back, exhausted but unwavering, because tomorrow would bring the courtroom. Tomorrow would bring the real fight, and tomorrow, Officer Morrison would learn that this wasn't a battle he could win with intimidation, lawyers, or a badge. Not when 30 wrestlers were standing between him and the girl he hurt. By sunrise, the hospital parking lot looked like a scene from a movie. 30 wrestlers, stiff from a night of rotating shifts, stood in scattered groups drinking cheap coffee and stretching sore muscles. Reporters had multiplied, drone cameras hovered overhead. Curious bystanders parked across the street just to witness the surreal congregation. Inside, Hawk rubbed his tired eyes as Lily stirred awake. "Is it morning?" she whispered. "It is," Hawk said softly. "How'd you sleep?" She shrugged. "I had nightmares, but every time I woke up, you were still here." Hawk felt something tighten in his chest. "I'm not leaving you alone again." Before Lily could respond, a knock sounded at the door. Marcus, the attorney, and one of the few men in the Brotherhood who wore glasses instead of tattoos, walked in carrying a folder thick enough to be a textbook. "Morning," he said. "We have a situation." Hawk stood. "Morrison?" Marcus nodded. "He's already filed paperwork demanding Lily be released to him today, claims she's fabricating abuse, claims you coerced her, and he's bringing an APD union attorney with him to court." Lily shrank into her pillow, fear flickering across her face. Hawk placed a reassuring hand on her shoulder. "Let him bring whoever he wants. We're bringing the truth." Marcus flipped open the folder. "We need evidence, solid evidence. The court won't take Lily from a decorated officer without proof." Rosa stepped forward. "We have photos, medical reports." Marcus nodded. "Good. But we need more." Tommy, who had just entered, leaned against the wall. "What kind of evidence?" "Anything showing a pattern," Marcus replied. "Temper, complaints, past injuries, witnesses who've seen him act unstable." Hawk frowned. "He keeps everything clean. He's smart." Marcus smiled. "Even smart men slip up." A sudden buzz echoed. Big Joe poked his head in. Hawk? 2 of our guys found something." Hawk followed Marcus, Rosa, and Tommy out into the hallway, where Bronx Bill and the Falcon stood with a man in a mechanic's uniform. Rico, a semi-retired wrestler turned auto tech genius. Rico held up a tablet with a photo displayed. "Look familiar?" Hawk studied it. A wrecked vehicle, pale blue, crumpled front end, dusty garage floor. "Lily's mother's car," Rico said. "Found it in a private impound connected to the police department. Morrison never released it for scrap." Hawk's eyes widened. "You got access?" Rico grinned. "I'm very convincing." Marcus stepped closer. "What am I looking at?" Rico zoomed in on a specific part of the photo, a small, clean slice in the metal tube. "That," Rico said, "is a brake line that didn't fail. It was cut." The hallway fell silent. Tommy whispered, "You sure?" "I'd bet my next 10 years of rent on it," Rico replied. "The cut marks are straight, deliberate, and too clean to be corrosion. Someone wanted that car to crash." Marcus exhaled in shock. This changes everything. This goes beyond abuse. If we can prove Morrison tampered with that car, it becomes a homicide investigation," Hawk finished. "And motive," Marcus added. "He gains life insurance, control, everything." Rosa's eyes filled with tears. Poor Lily, she was right. Hawk felt his blood boil and cool at the same time. A dangerous blend he hadn't felt in years. This wasn't just about saving Lily now. This was about justice for her mother. "Get copies of everything," Hawk ordered. "Photos, videos, measurement statements." Rico nodded. "Already on it." 2 hours later, Lily was discharged, weak but able to walk with help. The hospital had arranged a wheelchair, but she insisted on using her own feet. "If my mom fought for me," she whispered, "I can stand for myself too." Hawk squeezed her shoulder. "We'll stand with you." As they walked toward the exit, something incredible happened. Every single wrestler outside straightened up. 30 giants stood in 2 perfect lines leading from the entrance to the vehicles, like a protective tunnel built of muscle, discipline, and loyalty. Not one of them moved. Not one of them smiled. They simply stood in formation, silently telling Lily, "We've got you." Lily stopped in the doorway, tears spilling down her cheeks. "Are they here for me?" "All of them," Hawk said. Diesel stepped forward. "Morning, kiddo." She swallowed. I don't know what to say." "You don't need to say anything," Mav murmured from the end of the line reporters filmed. Nurses cried. Patients stared from windows. Lily walked through the line of wrestlers, each one bowing their head in respect as she passed. When she reached the end, Hawk lifted her gently into the lead vehicle. "Next stop," Marcus said, clutching the evidence folder. "The courthouse." "And Morrison?" Tommy asked Hawk, shut the door calmly. "He'll be there." "And us?" Diesel pressed. Hawk looked at the 30 wrestlers standing behind him like a wall. "We'll be ready." The Albuquerque County Courthouse loomed like a stone fortress, tall pillars, sharp angles, and the kind of intimidating architecture meant to make people second-guess themselves before walking inside. But that morning, something even more intimidating stood in front of it. 30 wrestlers silent, disciplined, unbreakable. Cars slowed, pedestrians stared, news crews swarmed like bees. The courthouse had hosted high-profile criminals, corrupt officials, and gang trials, but it had never seen anything like this. Diesel opened the SUV door for Lily. She paused at the curb, shaking slightly. "You okay?" Hawk asked softly. She nodded, but her voice wavered. "Do I have to talk?" "Only if you feel strong enough," Hawk said. "And if you do talk, we'll be right behind you." The wrestlers tightened formation around her. Not suffocating, but protective. Rosa walked beside Lily, her hand gently on the girl's back. Tommy and Bronx Bill flanked her. Hawk walked directly in front, clearing the path like a shield, people whispered as Lily passed. "That's the girl. The cops protecting the stepfather. They say her mom's death wasn't an accident. And those wrestlers? Are they really here for her?" Lily didn't look up, but she walked. And that alone took more courage than most adults ever find. Inside the courthouse, everything felt colder. Marble floors, harsh lighting, the metallic clang of security scanners. Morrison was already there, leaning against a wall in full uniform, arms crossed, jaw clenched. His lawyer, a slick-looking man with silver hair and polished shoes, whispered strategy into his ear. When Morrison saw Lily, his posture stiffened. Lily's body instantly recoiled. She moved closer to Hawk until her shoulder pressed into his side. Morrison smirked. "Really? You brought an entire circus act?" Diesel stepped forward, voice low and even. "We're not a circus. We're guardians." Morrison took a step toward Lily, but Rosa intercepted, standing between them like a mother bear. "Don't." His lawyer quickly intervened, grip tight on Morrison's arm. "Officer Morrison, please. Optics." Marcus approached, adjusting his glasses. "How's it feel, Morrison? Losing control of the narrative?" Morrison glared. "Feels like a waste of taxpayer money." Marcus smirked. "Lucky for you, justice is free." The courtroom doors opened. Case 1125, custody hearing for Lily Morrison. Hawk took a deep breath. It's time. The moment they entered the courtroom, the atmosphere changed. Reporters weren't allowed inside, but the tension they carried lingered. Morrison sat at one table with his attorney, posture stiff and self-righteous. Hawk, Marcus, Lily, and Rosa sat at the other. The judge, a stern woman with silver hair and sharp eyes, took her seat. "I understand this case has gained unusual public attention," she said immediately. "Let me be clear, this courtroom will not be a stage. We will deal only with facts." She turned to Lily gently. "Honey, are you comfortable speaking today?" Lily took a shaky breath. "Yes, ma'am." Marcus stood. "Your Honor, the physical evidence, medical documentation, and CPS reports clearly indicate abuse. We are also prepared to present new evidence regarding the death of Lily's mother." Morrison slammed his hand on the table. "That is outrageous," his lawyer hissed. "Sit down." The judge shot Morrison a warning look. "Control yourself, officer." He gritted his teeth. Marcus nodded to Lily. "Please tell the court what happened the night you came to the hospital." Lily's small voice trembled as she spoke. "He was mad. I didn't clean the kitchen right. He grabbed my arm. I hit the counter. I couldn't breathe. He said I should have been stronger. He said I was just like my mom." Marcus stepped closer. "What happened to your mom, Lily?" Lily's eyes filled with tears. The courtroom leaned in. "She didn't fall asleep at the wheel," she whispered. "I heard them fighting. I heard her scream, and... Her voice cracked. "I heard him say, 'No one will believe you.'" The judge's expression changed. Something between horror and realization. Marcus nodded slowly. "Thank you, Lily." Morrison jumped to his feet. "She's lying. She's been coached." "Sit down," the judge barked. But Morrison didn't. He pointed at Hawk, rage erupting. "You! This is your doing! You poisoned her mind!" Diesel stood in the gallery. Tommy did too. The wrestlers didn't move from their seats, but their presence filled the air like thunder. Hawk rose calmly. "She's telling the truth." Morrison lunged a step toward him, and suddenly 5 deputies swarmed, grabbing his arms. He struggled wildly, shouting, "You'll all pay for this! You hear me? She's mine!" The outburst echoed through the entire room. The judge slammed her gavel so hard the crack bounced off the walls. "Enough! Officer Morrison, one more outburst and I will hold you in contempt." He froze, chest heaving, eyes boiling with hate. But the damage was done. Everyone saw it. The mask had slipped. The judge's voice softened as she turned back to Lily. "Honey, you're very brave." She looked at Hawk next. "We will recess for 1 hour, and then we will hear the new evidence." Morrison was escorted out of the courtroom in cuffs he claimed were standard protocol. But everyone knew the truth. This was no longer a custody hearing. It was the beginning of an exposure, a downfall, a reckoning. And Hawk could feel it. The tide was finally turning. The courthouse hallways buzzed like a disturbed hive as the judge declared the recess deputies escorted Morrison down a side corridor, his face twisted with barely restrained fury. Cameras weren't allowed inside, but word traveled fast. Every clerk, every lawyer, every bystander whispered the same thing. The officer snapped. Hawk placed a gentle hand on Lily's shoulder as she sat trembling on the hallway bench. Rosa wrapped a blanket around the girl's shoulders. "You did incredibly brave," Rosa whispered. No one could have done what you just did." Lily leaned into Hawk's side. "He's going to be so mad." "No," Hawk said softly. "He's not coming near you again." "Ever," Tommy added. Stepping in front of her like a shield, Marcus returned, carrying a laptop bag and several printed documents. "All right," he said, lowering his voice. "Rico just got here." Rico appeared seconds later, grease still smudged on his fingers, wearing a faded auto shop jacket. He carried a folder tucked under one arm and a camera case under the other. "This better be worth the speeding ticket I'm getting," Rico muttered. Marcus clasped his shoulder. It is. Show us. They stepped into a small private conference room. Rico set everything on the table. Okay, he began. Car belonged to Lily's mother. It's been in a private impound operated by a contractor APD uses. That alone is suspicious. Cars involved in a fatal crash are supposed to be properly archived, but this one was tucked away like junk. He opened the folder. Inside were high-resolution photos of the brake system. Rico pointed. This cut on the brake line, not natural, too straight, too clean. This was done with a blade, likely a box cutter or a mechanic's knife. Corrosion doesn't create a line like that. Marcus leaned over the photos, eyes widening. Can you testify to this? Rico snorted. Lady, I've rebuilt more engines than that courtroom has chairs. I can testify in my sleep. Hawk nodded slowly. What about motive? Rico opened a second set of documents. Insurance payouts, beneficiary transfers, financial statements. Sarah Morrison's life insurance paid out a very pretty sum, Rico said. Guess who it went to? Morrison, Marcus muttered. Of course. Hawk's fists tightened. Jake trusted him after Sarah remarried, trusted him to protect them. And the man murdered her, Tommy said bitterly, and kept it buried. Lily, silent until now, looked up. I told people that something wasn't right. Nobody listened. Hawk kneeled beside her. They're listening now. Rico slid one more picture across the table. This is the final nail. Brake fluid residue on the metal shows the cut was made hours, not weeks, before the crash, fresh edges. No rust. That means whoever cut it intended that crash to happen the same day. Marcus exhaled hard. We need to get this in front of the judge. We will, Hawk said. But Morrison, he's going to fight this with everything he has left. Tommy cracked his knuckles. He's running out of everything he has left. 30 minutes later, they returned to the courtroom. The gallery had grown more crowded. Lawyers whispered. Deputies watched Morrison more carefully. His face was red with rage, but something else lurked beneath it now. Fear. Judge Halstead took her seat. Court is back in session. Mr. Marcus, you may present your new evidence. Marcus approached confidently. Your Honor, we present physical evidence suggesting the death of Lily's mother was not accidental. Rico Hernandez, a certified automotive technician and former wrestling engineer technician, has documentation showing the brake line on Mrs. Morrison's vehicle was deliberately cut. A murmur swept through the room. Morrison's lawyer leaped to his feet. Objection! This is irrelevant to a custody hearing. The judge slammed her gavel. Sit down, Mr. Lawson. If there is evidence that Mrs. Morrison's death was not accidental, it absolutely pertains to the safety of this child. Lawson sank back into his seat. Rico approached the witness stand with a calm confidence that made Morrison visibly tense. He took an oath, sat down, and began to explain. Slowly, clearly, every detail of the sabotage, the photos were displayed, the measurements explained, the timeline laid out. Every word hammered Morrison's mask deeper into cracks. Finally, Marcus delivered the blow. Mr. Hernandez, in your expert opinion, was the damage to the brake line accidental? Absolutely not, Rico said firmly. Someone cut it with intention. Lily flinched. Hawk reached for her hand. Morrison erupted. This is a setup. You're all framing me. The judge glared. Officer Morrison, control yourself. Morrison slammed his palm on the table. These performers are trying to destroy my life. Hawk rose slowly, eyes steady. No, you destroyed it yourself. Morrison lunged to his feet, but deputies immediately restrained him again. His lawyer begged him to stop, but Morrison had snapped, eyes wild, face red, spittle on his lips as he shouted, That girl is mine! She does what I say! None of you have any right! The judge slammed her gavel so hard the room jumped. "Officer Morrison, that is enough." The courtroom fell silent, all except for Lily, whose quiet voice cut through everything. "No, I'm not yours." And in that moment, something shifted. A tide, a truth, a final unraveling. Morrison realized it too, because for the first time, he wasn't in control. The courtroom felt like it was holding its breath. Morrison's outburst still buzzed in the air like leftover static from a lightning strike. Deputies had him seated again, wrists cuffed tightly, his chest heaving. His lawyer sat beside him looking like he was regretting every life choice that led him to this moment. Judge Halstead adjusted her glasses, face carved from stone. "Officer Morrison," she said, her voice calm but razor-sharp, "your behavior today has raised serious concerns regarding your fitness as a guardian." Morrison glared. "I was provoked." "No," the judge replied firmly. "You were exposed." Gasps rippled across the courtroom. Marcus stood. "Your Honor, with your permission, we have one more witness." "Proceed." Hawk stepped forward. Morrison scoffed. "Of course. The washed-up wrestler wants to play hero." The judge slammed the gavel. "Silence." Hawk approached the stand, his movements slow and deliberate. He wasn't a lawyer. He wasn't polished, but the courtroom leaned in anyway. His presence carried weight, the kind forged from loyalty, pain, and promises kept too late. He took the oath and sat. "Mr. Daniels," Marcus began softly, "can you tell the court your relationship to Lily?" Hawk exhaled. "I was her father's best friend, Jake Morrison. We served together. He saved my life more times than I can count." His voice tightened. "Before he died, he made me promise I'd watch over his daughter." "And did you?" Marcus asked. Hawk's eyes dropped to his hands. "No, not for a long time. I convinced myself she was safe, that the man Sarah married would protect her, that I didn't need to step in." He looked up, voice heavy with regret. "I was wrong." Lily's eyes filled with tears. "What made you come now?" Marcus asked gently. Hawk took a shaky breath. "A phone call. A scared social worker. A girl covered in bruises she didn't deserve. A hospital room where she apologized for being hurt." He swallowed. "And a child who looked at me like I was her last chance." Marcus nodded. "And why did you bring 30 wrestlers?" A few chuckles sounded, but Hawk remained solemn. "Because children don't need heroes. They need armies." He turned toward Lily. "And she needed to see that she wasn't alone." Lily pressed her hands to her face. Crying silently, Morrison scoffed loudly. "Manipulation. All manipulation." But this time, the gallery turned toward him with visible disgust. His veneer had crumbled. Judge Halstead leaned back. "Mr. Daniels, one final question. In your opinion, is Lily safe with Officer Morrison?" "No," Hawk said without hesitation. "She isn't." Silence. Then the judge nodded. "Thank you." Hawk returned to Lily's side. She immediately grabbed his hand, fingers trembling but determined. Morrison's lawyer rose, desperation leaking through his composure. "Your Honor, the child is emotional, confused, and clearly influenced by these people." The judge cut him off. "Do not insult the court, or this child." He shut his mouth. Judge Halstead turned her gaze toward Morrison. Her expression had softened, no longer sharp, but deeply sad. "Officer Morrison," she said, "I have seen abusive parents in this courtroom before. I have seen manipulative ones, controlling ones, but rarely have I seen one unravel his own mask so completely in a single day." Morrison's jaw tightened. She continued, voice low. "Your rage, your need for control, your threats, your refusal to follow protocols, your intimidation, your contempt, they speak far louder than any testimony." Then she turned to Lily, who sat small but unbroken. "Lily, you are very, very brave." Lily wiped her cheeks. "Thank you, ma'am." The judge lifted her gavel. "Based on the evidence, the testimony, and the behavior displayed in this courtroom, I am awarding temporary sole guardianship to Mr. Tom Hawk Daniels until a full custody evaluation can be completed." Gasps echoed. Lily covered her mouth, sobbing. Morrison lurched forward. "No, you can't! You can't take her!" Deputies pinned him against the table as he thrashed like a trapped animal. "Let me go! She's mine! She belongs with me!" Judge Halstead shouted above the chaos. "Officer Morrison, you are remanded into custody for violation of court conduct." He screamed. "This isn't over!" His voice cracked into something wild, something unhinged. But no one listened anymore, because the moment the gavel struck, Lily launched herself into Hawk's arms. "I'm safe," she sobbed. Hawk wrapped her in the tightest hug he'd ever given. "You're safe," he whispered. "I swear it." Outside the courthouse, the wrestlers erupted into applause as Hawk and Lily emerged. Reporters surged. Cameras flashed. Strangers cried. Diesel lifted his hands and roared with triumph. Lily looked around, overwhelmed but glowing with relief. Hawk picked her up slightly so she could see the faces around her. "These people," he whispered, "are your family, and they're not going anywhere." The Brotherhood stood together. 30 warriors who didn't win a wrestling match today. They won a life. The sun was beginning to set by the time the convoy left the courthouse. The desert sky burned orange and gold, streaked like it was painted just for Lily. She sat in the front seat with Hawk, wrapped in Rosa's blanket, clutching a small stuffed bear someone from the crowd had handed her. For the first time in years, she looked peaceful, not healed, not yet, but safe. Outside her window, wrestlers in SUVs and trucks followed in a protective procession, maintaining tight formation as if escorting royalty. Lily's royalty wasn't in power or wealth. It was in the courage she found today. The courage to speak, to stand, to survive. Hawk glanced at her. "How you feeling, kiddo?" She inhaled shakily. "Free." One word, but it carried a world of meaning. When they pulled into Hawk's small ranch-style home, the front porch lights glowed warmly. The yard, usually quiet and empty, was alive with movement. The Brotherhood had driven ahead to prepare the place. Diesel opened the house door with a grin. "Welcome home, Lily." Her eyes widened. Inside, the living room had been transformed. A brand new twin bed with pastel sheets, a bookshelf full of donated children's novels, a dresser, gently used but freshly polished, a small desk with art supplies, stuffed animals lined across the pillow. Fairy lights hung around the window frame. Lily covered her mouth with both hands. Is this for me?" "All of it," Rosa said softly. "Every piece." Tommy stepped forward with a potted plant. "And this is a jade plant. They live forever if you take care of them. Kinda like hope." Lily touched one of the shiny green leaves with reverence. I've never had my own room." Hawk felt his throat tighten. "Well, now you have one, and it's yours. Always." She walked slowly into the room, fingertips grazing each toy, each light, each book like she was afraid they'd disappear if she blinked. The wrestlers stood at the doorway. Big, powerful bodies looking strangely gentle as they watched her claim her new space. Finally, Lily turned to them, voice trembling but strong. "Thank you." It wasn't loud, it wasn't dramatic, but every wrestler in that hallway felt it like a punch straight to the chest. Diesel cleared his throat quickly, wiping his eyes. "If you ever need backup," he said, voice oddly tight. "You got 30 people on speed dial." 31, Tommy corrected. "Rosa hits harder than all of us." 32, Mav added from his cane. Old iron still counts. Lily laughed through her tears. I think I'm the luckiest girl in the whole world. Hawk stepped into the room and crouched down so they were eye level. You're not lucky, kid. You're brave. You survived something no child should ever face, and now you get to write the next chapter. She nodded, wiping her cheeks. And, can I stay with you? Forever? Hawk's breath hitched. As long as you want. He hugged her again, softly, carefully, like she was the most precious thing he'd ever held. And maybe she was. Later that night, after Lily fell asleep in her new bed, Hawk stepped out onto the porch. The wrestlers were gathered around a pickup truck, drinking sodas, swapping quiet stories. Decompressing, Mav waved him over. How's the little one? Sleeping. Peaceful. Rosa smiled. She deserves that. Hawk looked at them. This strange, mismatched family of fighters and misfits, bound not by blood but by something deeper: loyalty, compassion, purpose. You guys saved her, Hawk said. Diesel shook his head. No, you did. We just showed up. Showing up is everything, Hawk replied. They shared a quiet moment under the desert sky. Crickets chirped. The air smelled like dust and hope. For the first time in a long time, Hawk felt the weight on his shoulders lighten. Morrison was behind bars, awaiting a full investigation into a murder he'd hidden for years. The evidence was damning. The public outcry was explosive. Justice was finally coming. And Lily had a family now. A real family. Not by blood, by choice. Hawk stepped back inside and glanced at the small figure curled under blankets. Lily murmured something in her sleep, then settled. He whispered into the quiet. You're safe now. I promise you'll always be safe. A promise Jake would have been proud of. A promise Hawk would never break again. Thank you for staying with this story to the end. If Lily's courage, and the brotherhood that stood for her, touched your heart, let me know in the comments, and also tell me which city and country you're watching from, so I can thank you personally. Don't forget to like, subscribe, and hit the bell icon for more true stories that prove family isn't always blood. Sometimes it's the people who show up when it matters most.